All right, so hi everyone, my name is Kaspar. Oh yeah, here's the slide. Well, as you already know, I work at Autodesk as a journey manager since 3 months. And I'm also a co-founder of the Journey Management Collective, which is, we're just trying to create a knowledge sharing platform for all of you, anyone who's interested in journey management. You're all welcome to join. But before that, I was also working with Jochem actually at Dedu as a CX lead. And I was also working as service designer, UX designer. So I got all this experience and today I just want to share a few things that I think are really important and more of like an attitude that I think is essential if you want to set up a successful customer journey management practice. So there's a few pillars that are really important to consider when you want to integrate journey management. And first of all, it's about governance, like who's leading this, what's your vision, what's your timeline, and how are you supporting the organization to actually make this happen. And then there's the way of working, what are your rituals, what's your process, organization and culture, what skills, etc. do you have, how are your teams organized, you have knowledge management, so like how are you actually taking all these metrics and insights and how do you put that all together and what tools do you use for that and how do you integrate all of that. Well, today I only have 20 minutes, so it's way too much to go into, but I want to take out a few best practices, and I think that sort of center around this attitude of being a gardener. I think that's essential. Like, I grew up with my grandparents very close by, and they had a really nice garden. So from a young age, I was already working in that garden. I think they even paid me like 1 guilders an hour, which is like 50 euro cents. So I don't know if that counts as child labor, but I learned a lot of stuff from it. Like, it was beautiful to just plant something and then next year actually see things grow. And I think that's the same approach we have to take towards journey management. So I want to talk about 3 things. So start with a seedling, nurturing your garden, and inviting your friends and maybe sharing some stories in the garden that you grew. So let's talk about starting with seedlings first. So I just want to ask you, like, when you think about, some of you are probably running pilots for like starting up journey management, etc. And recently I was in Kyoto and I actually saw these amazing ice creams. And I just want to see some hands. Like, if you can look at if your pilot would be an ice cream, which one is it? So just like the top left, whose pilot kind of identifies as that one? Nice, basic, just no frills, no bells and whistles. Okay, we got 1, 2, 3, yeah, a few. Whose pilot looks a little bit more like the bottom shelf over there? Just all kinds of stuff slapped on, like really, really, really a lot. 2 hands, yeah. It's not easy to confess. And then, okay, who's got the mega jumbo ice cream over there, like where just the scope exploded and you're 12 months in and you don't really have results yet? Anyone? Anyone dares to? Okay, well, no one. Well, I'll find you in the talks when we chat later. But my point here is it's all about starting small and then scaling fast. Just like with gardening, right? It starts with the seeds, and then from there you can grow. Because it takes a lot to actually set up journey management as a practice. You have to think about the governance, the way of working. You have to test all types of things, what works in your context, in your team, in your organization. And you also have to think about, how, while we do that, how do we create proof that all of that works and something that we can show, like, some impact that we can show. So you want to really start with a little garden and set it up right. I mean, you can start a garden like where there's like in the middle of a desert, but it will be much harder than if you start somewhere where, there's good soil, there's good foundation, it rains a little bit. Probably Norway is a great place to start gardens. You can tell me more on that. But similar things go up for journey management. So there's a few things to consider. So first, you want to start somewhere where there's leadership visibility. So probably you want to start with a journey that's aligned with some key goals or some key challenges. For example, the churn in Denmark that Jochem was just talking about. Sounds like a great point to start. You also want to start where there's an operational need. So where do teams really encounter problems? Like, all kinds of collaboration that doesn't really work, initiatives that are just not really connecting well to user needs, and maybe some data that is there, but it's just not really used in the right way. You want to get some sponsorship. So you want to get someone to actually sponsor and support your practice. Some leader that recognizes the value. And you want to probably have some type of right culture already, some people that understand that this is important. And finally, you want to start somewhere where there's a high potential to actually get some results. Once again, Jochem's example is really good because, well, some help desk calls, right? That's always a very nice metric that you can impact and you can really show results. And it's not about, so if we then move on to planning your garden, right? It's when you found a great place, you're starting out, but still you want to make sure that there's no scope creep. And there's a few things to just mention here, like you want to start with the right objectives, right? Have your goals and outcomes clear and make it explicit. Do this together with the people that you're working for, like working with your stakeholders. And the scope, and don't just talk about what's in, but also like what is out of scope. That's almost as important, if maybe even more important. And the timeline and the ownership and the different inputs. And I think most of all, also the value. Like if you're gonna embark on this journey, who are you gonna work with and what's in it for them? And really focus on that. And how are we actually gonna help them create the results that they want to show at the end? Those are some of the mindsets that can really help you be successful. And it takes a little bit, of a hero journey mindset as well. I mean, I don't know if you're familiar with the hero journey term, but it's really important to just focus on your stakeholders, what's in it for them, and also help them. Like what I'm noticing a lot in companies so far is like you first have to show what the value is. You have to do it for them. Then you get them on board. And once they start believing, then you can start actually working with them, teaching them how to do it themselves. And then hopefully at the end, they'll be able to do it themselves and show you how it's done. You can learn something from everyone around you. But it takes a lot of patience and it takes a lot of hype. It usually takes years to get to a really good functioning practice. That's what we're going to talk about here. So just like a garden, it's not like you plant the seeds and some plants go up and then plants are above the ground, I walk away, done, right? No, it's something that you need to keep nurturing. And just a question for the crowd, like just a teaser, like what do these shapes have in common? Does anyone know? No hints yet? I'll give you a hint. Maybe some of you are familiar with the scribble? Not yet? Well, I'll make it easy for you. So all of those shapes have been used to create innovation models like this. And as you can see, it can be quite dazzling. There's so many going around. Circles, double diamonds, triple diamonds, even hexagons and spirals over there. So the variety is huge. But I think the most important thing here is that whatever model you're using, make sure that it's not just a linear process, but that there's a circular element, like a recurring element in there. Because it's really important to move from a project mindset to an ongoing improvement mindset. That's super important for journey management. It's something that you have to keep doing. It's not about delivering artifacts and results, but it's really about managing the impact that you want to get. And it's not operating in a vacuum, right? Like you're coming in, there's already teams working on these challenges. So it's really taking that in and being a part of that and helping those people accomplish what they're already working on. And a few key tips on that is, don't try to manage all of your journeys, because there might be, up to 100 journeys in a company or even more. And it takes a lot of resources to manage all of that. So what I've seen really work well is, if you're a big company, just focus on 3 to 5 hero journeys, as we call them, like journeys that are really important to the company or the leadership. For example, the churn again. And just focus on those and try to make those into the ones that you focus on, that you report on, that you prioritize around. And of course, that doesn't mean that you can work on the other 95 journeys that you might have, but those are more the inputs, and you might learn things that you can then take and put the most important insights into your hero journey, but really focus on just the management around 3 to 5 journeys in total. Also, try to map first and manage later. As Jochem said, we're moving from mapping to management, but what I found, especially when you're trying to introduce this way of working, people are more familiar still with the mapping. So start there, show how that creates value, create trust, create some first value, build relationships, and those things will then help you to come to people and say like, well, now we have this journey, but we have to keep it updated. We have to keep showing impact. We have to keep, prioritizing what we do next. And then people start to say, like, yeah, but how do we do that? Well, that's where your rituals come in. So journey management is also a collection of rituals that you can do. For example, quarterly updates on a journey. What did we learn? What impact did we have? What are we planning next? What opportunities did we get? Like, which of those do we actually want to continue with? And try to think of that in terms of rituals, just like Agile almost, and try to implement that in your way of working. And then lastly, how are we on time, by the way? Okay, yeah. Invite your friends. And, well, this is kind of the situation you want to get to, right? Like, you want to talk with all these different stakeholders that are interested in your journey. So you might have leadership that wants to explain why goals are necessary to the rest of the organization, or like why a decision was made in the way it was. You might have your product people that they want to explain why where there are gaps in the offerings, why certain initiatives are important to focus on, what impact might have been. You might have your analysts, your data people, the researchers, they want to explain the numbers. They want to get visibility on their results and present it in a way that people can actually work with them. And you have the designers, they want to explain, why did we design things in the way we did? How will that impact journeys? So one journey can have a lot of different stories around it, and you have to adopt the journey to make all those stories possible. And as with any story, it has to be believable. You don't want plot holes in your story, and it has to be relevant. So I just want to share some tips on how we can make that happen with journeys. So let's say you've created a great journey. You've done your research. You've got some tasty quotes and anecdotes. You've got some really important key themes. The personas are relatable. Sounds great. But what's that? Oh, no. People are asking, what's the response rate on NPS? What was the research methodology? That metric is outdated. These are things that some of you might have heard. I've heard them way too many times that I want to confess here on stage. And there are some things that you can do to prevent this from happening, right? So first of all, it's like making things believable. And especially in big corporates, what I've learned is, trust comes on foot and leaves on horseback. I mean, that's a Dutch saying, but you know what it means. It takes a long time to build confidence. And it only takes one insight that might not be completely correct or not up to date in a journey for people to discredit the whole journey altogether. That's not what you want. So you want to preempt that. Sit down with your analytics and data people and just go over it. Identify and explain where are the knowledge gaps. What is good enough confidence for us to make decisions around journeys? How do we quote some sources if we have those? And how do we actually sit down with them and collaborate and get some sign-off from them on that? Well, you've done that, but so you present it again, and what happens? Oh no, Jesse's team is all working on that. Did you check the leadership board, the V2 that's somewhere floating around in our digital SharePoint? What about outliers or edge cases? Well, the list goes on. This is about plot holes. Your story might just have some plot holes, and first of all, it's very important to note down the scope, like I said before, but also it's just about mapping your whole ecosystem. There are already goals floating around. There are already metrics, insights, initiatives that people are working on, designs, and if you want to connect to your audience, you'll have to put those in and show them what they look like in the journey so they recognize things, and then if you identify a gap, it's much more believable because they can see, like, yeah, you've taken notice of all the things we're already doing, and still there's a gap there. And you also want to map, for example, if you're mapping initiatives, you want to map the historic ones, the things that are in flight and planned as well, because you're already working in this existing ecosystem. And before you show, you probably want to talk to someone in product, someone in design, someone in leadership to just kind of sign off beforehand. So once you present something, you know that it's complete. And it takes a lot of detective work. I mean, I was just talking yesterday with some people here as well. Like, they interviewed 48 people to create their metro map, like the big overview of all of the journeys. And yeah, it can take that much work to actually do it. But the results, once you do it, you create so much trust and insight what's going on. And that's really incredible. So the payoff is worth it, but it does take time. Well, still, I mean, we've done our work, and still things are happening. People might be saying, "Well, give it to me in 5 minutes. I completely lost the plot." What about experience or like families or elderly or students? These are things that you might also hear. I mean, any thoughts on what might have gone wrong here? No, for bonus points? Well, it's about relevance. So you want to connect to your audience, right? And you can have a journey that you've done everything right, but you have, oh, it's so easy to overload. There's so many sources. Like I'm working on some journeys sometimes, and there's 30 or more different sources, dashboards, reports, you name it, and that all goes in there, and it just expands and expands. Well, if I would go to my leadership and show that, they would just be like, well, come back next week because we cannot work with this. So you have to think about less is more when you show this. You also want to think about rolling up your metrics and insights. You know there's different hierarchies, of course, and you don't want to show super detailed ones. And you want to have one journey. Well, I think the most important one here is like, there's one journey, but you can have multiple stories that you tell around that journey. For example, what you want to tell a product manager is probably a different story than leadership. You want to filter things out for leadership. You want to just show the most important ones. But for a UXer, you want to dive in the details. You want to show all the little nitty-gritty things that you have found. And I think Data actually implemented a really interesting feature lately, that's the filtering, that allows you to just have all of your input in one journey, but just filter out whatever is relevant based on the use case, based on your audience. And that's what we're trying now as well. So help your stakeholders tell their stories as well. So my biggest collaborators, I would say currently, I'm trying to help them tell their stories. It's not even about my story. I'm going to them with this sort of high-level journey that I'm building, and I'm asking them, how can I help you to tell the story that you need to tell? And it's different for everyone. But in doing that, doing it for them, they're starting to believe, and then they're coming back for more. They're like, oh, I want to show this too. I want to show this too. Can you help me out? Well, then you get them on board, and they even start doing it themselves, believe it or not. And I think one thing that ties all of that together as a best practice is to co-create a journey fidelity skill. All of the things I just mentioned, they're all about fidelity. How deep do we go? How much level of detail is there? So it's really about, think about what is the use case? How do I want people to use this? What's included for the use case that we want? Are we just reporting on insights, or do we really want to have a super high-level overview of all the initiatives that we're working on and which ones are relevant to improve? And then also sign off on the required work and sign-offs for all of those different stages that you might have in fidelity skill. You might have an assumption map. You might say, well, we're just asking around in our team, that's enough work, 3 hours, that's it. But you also might have like a fully detailed map where there's like everything in there, and it might require some more work. And if you align with the team around you before that, they'll start to understand, and they'll start to trust what level the journey is at. That can really help prevent all of those different questions that I mentioned before, because they'll realize, yeah, but this journey is at this point. We don't have to ask about those things right now. So that's gardening for journey managers. Start with a seedling, nurture your garden, and invite your friends, and share some stories. And of course, there's way more to talk about. There's so many best practices for each of these categories. So if you're interested, we're also running sort of a community called the Journey Management Collective. We have some blogs, we're setting up some training, and we also do events just like ASA. So if you want to join in for more, feel free to join. And there's the link to some articles. And that's it. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Kaspar. Really inspiring presentation. Any questions from the audience? It's always like we should next presentation start thinking about questions while they are presenting.
Yeah.
Okay, well, I have one question. So you have a quite unique background. You worked first with data, building the product for journey management. Then you started the journey management collective and do a lot of trainings. And now you're working in-house, working at Autodesk as a journey manager. Can you talk a little bit about how is it sitting in 3 different sides of the table? What are the differences when it comes to journey management, perspectives?
Well, I think I got especially my time at Data was super interesting, because I was also responsible for helping customers implement that. So I think I had front row seats to, I had a very unique front row seat that I don't think many people have had. Like just being able to see what all these companies are working on. I think in the end I was responsible for 18. So I saw what worked and I saw what didn't work and what was difficult. So everything I said right now is based on all of that experience. And joining Autodesk was great because then I could say like, well, did I actually get it right? You know, because now it's up to me to actually make this happen and help out. And so I'm constantly learning as well. Like, of course, I had some things I got right, and there's some things that needed a little bit of tweaking for me as well. So it's really cool to put that into practice now.
Yep.
Yeah.
Nice. Good. So how about it, audience? Any questions? Do we have questions online, Ivar? No? Okay. There's one question. Ivar, can you bring the mic in front?
Thank you for your interesting presentation. I'm just wondering, what's your experience? We are selling software ourselves, but we also work with a large partner network, resellers who sell the software for us. And we're trying to map their challenges and processes in our own customer journey. Do you have any advice or experience on how to continue this?
So working with partners, that's an interesting one because I would say, I mean, we had the same thing happening at Autodesk as well. Like we have partners as well that we work with. I think it is, start with the partners that you know best, like that are really on top of their game. Like we have some partners that we learn from even, but there's also some partners that are just there to sell and they don't really think much more on that. So probably start just with the ones that know best and try to learn and collaborate with those first and then see how that goes. And also try to enable your partners as much as possible. Like give them something if you want something back. I remember at Daydo, I was helping out, for example, setting up our own partner repository. Like how can we help our partners achieve their goals? If you do that, they might give you something back too. So it's an exchange of ideas and insights, I would say. That's probably the mindset that could help.
On that note, we actually had exactly the same discussion with Dominic from Yara. So maybe there's a soulmate there that you want to have a chat with on the next break. Good. Any other questions? If not, then let's move on to the next one. Thank you, Kaspar.
Welcome. Thank you.